Hey guys, Dantix here. Starfield, Bethesda's next big sci-fi RPG, is so close yet so far. We just received a ton of new information, including the character builder, skills, combat, base building, and more. I'm beyond hyped, and this will be a game we play for years to come. However, what stood out to a few fans, new and old alike, is what we can do with our starship, namely customization. We can buy and sell modules and swap them in and out to modify how our ship performs. We can hire a crew to man the ship and complete tasks. We can also fly the ship around manually and take out pirates in space dogfights, or even become a space pirate ourselves. We can travel to 100 solar systems and visit almost 1,000 planets. So in this video, I'll be breaking down everything we know so far, including what modules we'll have access to, the stats, dogfighting, and more. So if you want more in-depth breakdowns like this one and my character customization and skills video, you know what to do. I have a ton of info you won't see anywhere else coming soon. Be sure to also let me know how you'll be partaking in space combat. Will you act as the law? Will you be a miner? Or will you even be a space pirate? So let's begin. Starting inside our ship. This particular ship has a hab zone and a cockpit. Depending on which hab you have moduled onto your ship, you can customize what's inside. In this case, it's an area for research and science called the Research Laboratory. This area can take on board projects around pharmacology, food and drink, outpost development, and equipment based on how many crew you have. I'm not sure what this variant is, but it seems like a CIC, most likely helping you in combat, on crew-related missions, or finding resources. As of right now, we have very little information on what your crew will do inside the ship, but particular modules will provide space for crew members, which you can hand-pick to come on board with you on your starship. Now let's dive into the ship customization screen. So in the middle is our ship, Frontier, and to the top right is the amount of money the vendor and we have, as well as the cost of the parts we are purchasing. It seems like this customization screen will appear when purchasing parts from a vendor. The top left as well as the bottom are stats we can track to see how effective our ship is. The top left represents our power distribution. The bars start with W0, W1 and W2, which relate to our weapon systems, with weapon 0 being a laser, weapon 1 being a ballistic weapon, and weapon 2 being missiles. There are more lasers equipped than ballistics, which explains the power requirement. Engine represents how much power your engine is taking, next being your shields, and finally your grav drive, which lets you travel from system to system. Below that is a bar that represents how much energy from your total you are using, your ship being limited by how much power it produces. So more powerful ships will need more powerful reactors. Your reactor stat is represented below, and the power consumption of your equipped modules next to that. It seems to add up to everything but the grav drive, which I assume only drains that much power when you activate it, meaning you might need to lower the power to the other systems in order to jump if you're using the full amount of power your ship produces. Then at the bottom we have your ship's stats. The weapon systems first, with what I can assume is the damage per second. If so, missiles might have a very long reload time. Next is the hull. It represents the physical health of your ship. When this is damaged, you'll need to repair it. While shields represent the power of your shields, which also absorb damage before it hits your ship's hull. These regenerate over time but require some of your ship's power to operate. Cargo is your ship's capacity, so you might find yourself building a ship for mining rather than for combat, and in which case you want to load up modules with high cargo capacity. Then we have the crew capacity. More crew means more options. Since you can handpick your crew, no doubt they'll provide some kind of benefit. It isn't clear right now exactly what you can get your crew to do, but we can make educated assumptions. Then we have the ship's jump range, measured in light years. The more fuel you have, the further or more often you can travel without stopping to refuel. Then we have mobility, which is how easy it is to turn your ship and maneuver it around. Top speed is self-explanatory, and mass is a stat that governs the physical bulk of your ship. Mass affects other stats like top speed and maneuverability, and it also is an amazing game, so to compensate for a bulky ship, you'll need more powerful engines. So now that we have a grip on what we're seeing, let's run through specific parts. The first is a Magellan C2 cockpit by Nova Galactic. It adds 60 cargo space, 9 health and 2 crew slots. It costs 10,000 credits and has a mass of 10. So this is a relatively small cockpit. It requires you to have the skill Starship Design in order to equip it. So just like Fallout 4, you'll need specific skills in order to craft, build or use particular things. So if you fancy yourself an aerospace engineer, I'd recommend picking up Starship Design early or picking the appropriate background. You'll notice that when editing parts, you can perform a flight check as well as see any errors or warnings before settling on your design. As we move the cockpit off, you'll see a blue lit node. These nodes are spots you can attach parts to your ship, so some parts will have more nodes than others, probably at a cost. Next is the White Dwarf 1000 engine by Redline. It's a Class A engine with 1,550 engine thrust, 815 maneuvering thrust, 48 engine health and 100 health. It costs 14,000 credits and has a mass of 100, which is 10 times more than the cockpit we just saw. Like mentioned, your overall mass will affect performance of your engines. Keeping it low will make for a nippy shippy. So we see the installation of one of the White Dwarf 1000 engines, but once we install the second, things change. First, the obvious. The hull gets an increased 100 health and is taken out of the red. Next, surprisingly, the jump range goes down. I'm not sure if this is because the mass went up and the engines therefore require more fuel to jump, or if it's because of the increased power drain, but adding that extra engine lowered the range by 3 light years. Mobility changes from the red 49 to the clear 98. The warning symbol also changes to nominal. It seems your ship will have a minimum requirement to be Starfield worthy. Your top speed stays the same, but the mass goes up to 400. These engines being half the total mass of the ship itself. You'll also notice that the player has not spent any money yet. It seems you can fully customize before settling on a decision to buy the parts you are playing around with, paying in one lump sum. The next part is a Titan 350 Helium-3 tank by Nautilus. It provides grav jump fuel to the ship, 75 to be precise, while providing 30 health. It costs 12,000 credits and has a mass of 12, so fuel influences your jump distance and engines influence your mobility and speed. The next part is an NG-15 lander by Nova Galactic. It increases the ship's health by 4, but most importantly, allows the ship to land on rough terrain. It costs 7,000 credits, has a mass of 4, and also requires the Starship Design skill. Next is the Nova Galactic Hab 1x1x1. This provides the ship 5 health at the cost of 5,000 credits and 14 mass. Most importantly, it provides nodes to which you can attach parts, like the cockpit, fuel tanks, and landers. The Nova Cal is much the same, another node point for your ship. It has 8 health, costs 4,000, has a mass of 8. Next is the Mauler 104L cannon by Horizon Defense. I really hope the L in 104 stands for liters. It's a Class A weapon, requires 4 reactor power and provides 1 health at the cost of 5,500 credits and a mass of 1. Strange that the weapon system is so light. I guess I'll just be loading weapons up on my ship until it looks like a space pufferfish. This gun requires the Starship Design skill. The next weapon is the Dragon 221P MW Pulse Laser by Horizon Defense. It's a Class A laser that requires 3 power and has a health of 1. It costs 7,500 credits and has a mass of 1 as well. It also requires the Starship Design skill. Sadly, this view doesn't show their damage output. Now we see a reactor, the Ion Beam H1010. It's a B-class reactor that generates 16 power, repairs at a rate of 2, has a reactor health of 52 and a health of 31, as well as a crew rating of 2. It costs 78,000 credits and has a mass of 52. Starship Design skill needed as well. Now, this one needs a little discussion. Can parts repair themselves, or does this relate to an overall ship repair stat? If so, will a good reactor repair your whole ship at a faster rate? These stats also suggest parts will have their own individual help, letting enemies target them to disable them. No doubt disabling your power would be extremely bad, and we can see that in an upcoming dogfight. Being disabled might open you up to being captured, killed, or robbed. My assumption with crew rating is that it needs a crew rating of 2 in order to operate and maintain. We can see that adding this part will lower mobility of your ship. In the next menu, we see tabs for landers, reactors and shields, as well as a variety of reactors available with no doubt different power to size weight ratios. Here's another lander, the Pinpoint 5G lander by Tayo Astroneering. The problem is we can't see how these landers work in order to judge their effectiveness. All we know is they provide 6 health, a mass of 3 and cost 9,400 credits. We can see the landing gear come down, but I think this is something we would need to try for ourselves to pick the perfect gear for us. The AccuLander 21 by Shroud Aklund has the same description, but provides 3 health and 4 mass at the cost of 4,000 credits. The NG20 lander wide has 2 boots instead of 1, health 4, mass 4, 7,000, but requires the Starship design skill. The DS-10.1 Phobos cockpit by Demios has a cargo space of 50, health of 6 and 6 crew slots, a big improvement from 2. It costs 13,000 credits and has a mass of 5, still quite small when compared to the engines. This ship is called the Longsword. Not sure if you can change ships or rename them yourself, but it's something to note. Then we have a sequence of the player editing the module's colors. I imagine you can make any kind of monstrosity that you can think of. This particular ship doesn't have any ballistic weapons. The Demios control station 2x1x1 has 5 health, 14 mass and costs 5,000, but notably it has crew slots. It also has different variants inside. I'm assuming you can choose what you want inside, like a lab or a combat center. Here's a look at the privateer ship. It has powerful lasers and is quite fast and maneuverable, mainly though it has a large amount of cargo space. It shows off just how different your designs can be. Whereas the Mako here has no weapon systems at all, a small reactor, a small crew, no shields, but is fairly competitive in terms of speed, maneuverability and jump distance. The Ranger has what seems to be more advanced parts, as it has 3 times the cargo space of the privateer, as well as strong weapon systems. All that space is for cargo, as it can only fit 2 crew. Now let's jump into space combat or dogfighting. The first thing you'll notice is that you can free fly around and your heads-up display is based on your cockpit. It has stats for your ballistic ammo, missiles and lasers. It also has your speed and boost. You can see your shields and HUD at the bottom right and your power distribution at the bottom left. Your radar is in the bottom middle. Immediately when you reach space after launch, the player puts all their power into weapon systems. As you can see, he doesn't have quite enough power to fully support the lasers and the engine. He also doesn't have enough to grav jump. Over time you can see the shields and weapons recharging up to 100. There seems to be no ammo, rather a recharge based on the power distributed to them. The ballistic cannon seems to go from 100 to 0 in one shot, and if you blink, you'll miss it. While dogfighting, you can see the enemy's locked missiles onto you. You also have the option to lock onto enemies as well, which seems to let your lasers track and I imagine let your missiles track as well. You'll notice that you have the option to dock your target if you get close enough, suggesting that space piracy is possible in a more direct way if you haven't invested heavily in a good ship. Might also mean you can replace your ship if you find a good one, though this seems like a stretch considering the effort the game goes into to let you personalize your own. You also see a missile being fired off, though it's another case of blink and miss it. It does seem to do a lot of damage with that long cooldown represented by a grayed out missile power bar. You're fighting level 1 Crimson Fleet ships, space pirates, and you seem to have them outgunned. When activating your boost you get speed, but it has a cooldown represented by the grayed out engine power bar. Finally, you destroy the fleet and fly off victorious. It's unclear if you can loot the wrecks just yet, but it wouldn't be a Bethesda game if you couldn't loot a defeated opponent. Let's take a look at more ships free flying. This one is larger than the more maneuverable ship we just saw. Seems like it has multiple areas for cargo storage and large engines for high top speed and outrunning pirates rather than fighting them. Then we have a tanker ship which is either to refuel at or is some crazy attempt to grav jump constantly without troubles. Then we see a ship with more futuristic looking engines flying towards a space station of some kind. Might be for refueling and repairing or perhaps to talk to NPCs and merchants. Here's another space station with a lot of storage. No doubt this ship was built for maneuverability and dogfighting as it could almost be an Earth fighter jet. This ship is a level 3 Crimson Haunt and the player seems to have trouble hitting it. For a second I thought you docked this ship, but it's a completely different one. So once docked, you have an option to undock, get up, or board the ship. I'd be interested to see boarding party assault in the next reveal, crossing my fingers. Here we see the Haunt almost destroyed. Its shields and grav drive are down, and you can see that in the HUD. Once again, I hope it's based on where you target, and you can precision disable ships' powers and engines rather than just it being damage based. When you land the killing blow, it says at the top, critical hit reactor, so I'm hoping so. The kill nets you 23 experience, meaning you can level from space combat, which is good since you'll be spending so much time there. In Starfield, you can explore up to 1,000 planets.
Let's take a look at one of our planets, Jemison. You can land in New Atlantis, but you can also land and explore anywhere on the planet. And it's not just this planet, it's all the planets in the system.
So from this menu you can land anywhere on the planet. You can also scan and survey, which has a real Mass Effect vibe. It's unclear what exactly doing both does, but I imagine it marks points of interest for you. So you can explore Jemison completely, but also all the planets in the system. Here's the system view where you can see the faction that controls it, as well as the total surveying done. There will be planets like Chorla, who are uninhabitable but contain a lot of heavy metals, to planets that already have life. That's not all though. If we zoom out to the galaxy map, we can travel to over 100 systems, which is almost 1,000 planets to explore. Now, I know what you're thinking, damn, there is no way that they handcrafted 1,000 planets, and you're probably right. Though, like our universe, most planets are barren husks. No doubt we can expect Mass Effect-like exploration and scanning systems in order to find the nuggets of value on each. When you consider that this is only a tiny fraction of our galaxy, and that starships in this universe can't travel the full length yet, it really puts the universe into perspective. When selecting a solar system, you can see its level, as well as the number of planets and how many moons those planets have. Do note, we see the Sol system here, suggesting we may be able to visit Earth and planets in our own solar system. Now, it's time for me to head back to Earth as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you're interested in Starfield, don't forget to subscribe and like. I'll be back soon with more. Ciao, friends.